When Brown versus Board came through, one of the big points was separate is not equal. And when we tell people that we're going to let you move money from the public school system towards a private entity, the expectation that many have when they hear that is, we're going to take the poorest of the poor and move them into the greatest Catholic schools in the communities. That's simply not the reality.
How do we make public education the anchor of democracy again?
In 1954, amidst a tense racial atmosphere, the Supreme Court handed down a ruling for a controversial case that would finally answer a question raised in Plessy v. Ferguson. Was the doctrine of separate but equal constitutional? In a unanimous decision, the Supreme Court ruled a resounding no. The Brown v. Board of Education decision ended segregation in public schools and was another victory in the fight to end Jim Crow-era laws throughout the South. It would take nearly a decade more and heavy pressure from the federal government, but integrated schools had finally come to the United States. That battle may have been won, but others loomed in the distance. The Great Recession and nationwide government belt-tightening would bring a different threat to children in public schools. On the 60th anniversary of the Brown v. Board of Education decision, teachers, family members of Brown plaintiffs, and teachers' union leaders gathered in the hallowed ground of Topeka, Kansas, where it all began to rally once again for the future of America's children.
A battle is being fought in states all over America, and it has now reached the highest court in the state of Kansas. The Kansas Supreme Court said today the state, which has cut taxes and spending sharply, is not spending enough on public schools.
Rhetorically, we always talk about how we have to help all kids, but whether or not in fact we are helping all kids. In some ways, that was the moral and legal debate that came out of Brown, and it was whether separate but equal was inherently unequal. Now we rhetorically talk about how we have to help all kids, but we act in a way that's really different.
These cuts and these policies have left counties like Saline County without bridges. We've converted roads from gravel and paved to dirt. We've created problems of opportunity for people who are now struggling to get to locations with basic transportation and basic services.
And all the way from Texas.
What we've seen, there's policy, there's research upon research that says austerity and trickle-down economics do not work to grow the economy.
You know, during the economic recession, Kansas schools and teachers embraced a spirit of shared sacrifice and absorbed dramatic funding cuts along with every other state agency. And I know that I don't have to tell you how painful those cuts were.
Yesterday, Governor Brownback was quoted as saying, "The Brown decision changed the face of the nation." And although it seems very clear that he would like to change it back, we stand here today to honor their sacrifice through our own action.
All of us standing together, joining hands together, this is something to rejoice about. For too many lives, for too long, we've been separated by race. We've been separated by all these issues. This issue has brought us together. And we're going to change Kansas, and we're going to change the world. It starts right here. Because Kansas has always been about opportunity. Kansas has always been about lifting up everybody. And this is the legacy of Kansas, and we won't turn back, and we won't be turned around. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Since I have been a child to an adult living in Kansas this entire time, the demographics of my community have changed dramatically. The socioeconomic demographics have changed dramatically. 40% of the children that attend my children's school today are participating in the free and reduced lunch program.
In our economy writ large, the rich have actually bounced back. And Wall Street has really bounced back. And you're seeing real kind of, you're seeing states after states after states having some surpluses. And yet you see that even in the equity piece that was passed only because of a court order, adequacy was pulled off, and the issue about at-risk kids funding pulled back, and the people who can fight about this silenced.
You take away $10 million of at-risk funding, but you offer it to corporations to provide scholarships to non-public schools.
Oh my.
We have a moral obligation to provide what we need in our schools, and that doesn't come from asking people in other parts of our world to take care of it. That's something that we should do as a government. That's what we've committed ourselves to doing, is taking care of our children and providing them for the future.
I think that the unfettered money that's dumped into the political process now is what's driving that message. The outside interest, and that's what our Kansas citizens need to see, is that outside interests are trying to drive an agenda that is not true Kansas values.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.